nice. Like
I love it.
People are grinding; they're not giving up.
Yeah.
So I love to hear that.
I do too. I think the more I look back at those conversations, for me, it was definitely survival mode. I would say now we're seeing a lot more. Okay, I need to start questioning maybe some of my processes. I need to question maybe how I'm going about doing things. We got a truck horn, which I love. But I think that's probably the biggest difference is survival versus, okay, let's look at some processes. What am I doing now that's, I could be better at?
Right.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about our community. I love our community because they're always trying to get better. They're trying to support each other. We have a very positive community, which I love. It's my favorite friggin' thing in the entire world. And so we're going to dive into some of those things that we had, some of those questions and conversations we had this week on habits. So I'm excited about it.
And we're going to have Samantha Jones. She'll be here in a bit. She had some really good posts this week, and I think it really relates to what we're talking about today. But I'm excited to see what kind of her Friday tip is. I'm excited. She gives out some really good tips.
Yeah,
so
she does. She's got just a ton of value.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of her.
We first make our habits, and then our habits make us. Yeah.
I love that. I read this book. This would have been a couple weeks ago. It was really interesting. And it says, you come into this world looking like your mom and dad, but you go out, looking like your habits, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that may be the same with business, right? Where are you at, in your success is all dependent on what you do. Because what we do most of the time, I was looking up some statistics for you guys, just for the sake of it. And we go through 40% of the motions of our day, the tasks that we have, right, are just unconsciously just happening because it's already something that we've kind of pre-programmed in our head, right? So when you're sitting there on the phone, I used to do this, by the way. I used to cold call. This is my favorite. It was a habit. Not good, but it was a habit. I would literally cold call. I got my headset on. I'd scroll social media while I'm on the phone.
You really?
My mind just is like a friggin' right? I would just sit there and scroll social media, and I could have a full-on conversation with somebody, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. You just talking trucking.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. Sometimes I could barely do two things at once, and you're over here doing three. But that's interesting.
It was wild. It was so friggin' wild.
Did you break that habit, or are you still doing that?
I did, and now I'm really conscious about. I think this is probably. Oh, sorry, Nate. I think this is probably one of the bigger issues that'll come out later in life of people addicted to their phones.
Oh, yeah.
People not even unconsciously scrolling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's going to be I'm going to have to go to a class for it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how often do you just go to bed and you just scroll?
Mm-hmm. Well, what's even crazier now, like colleges are putting out TikTok classes. Or,
I know.
Like, what is Duke doing, man? I don't know. I do the same. Yeah.
Exactly.
It just happens.
Do you do the same on the cold call thing, or just going to bed and scrolling?
Or both.
I'd be curious. Yeah. I'd be totally curious. So we're going to break down a conversation that we had with a fairly large broker, and we talked about it in a stance of things that they're doing versus in their ops, right? The habits versus what they're trying to change to. So interesting, right? We're going to talk about the tech side of habits, and then the sales side, and we won't beat these to death, but we'll add some value in a sense that we want to help you guys understand, especially anyone new, what habits some of these larger brokers are dealing with.
And sometimes these are just little things, right? Like it's not crazy habits. Like it's little things that's writing down the right notes, or doing checkup calls or check-in calls, right, for deliveries, or anything that's really going to help you kind of grow your business. Like sometimes it's the little things that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
That are actually will affect you big down the road. So
absolutely. We gotta start with tech, because yesterday I talked with Nate and did security reports. Exactly. We got to start with tech. Obviously, eCarrierCheck, one of the best sourcing platforms in the entire galaxy, intergalactic galaxy. And you can find trucks, you can find shippers, you can find all kinds of things. But what's interesting about tech, right? The first time I got to tell you, this is my favorite. Okay, I'm of the era. I'm a late '80s baby, and I didn't get a cell phone until I was 18. Okay, judge me for who I am.
I'm judging. Okay.
And it was a flip phone, which, by the way, I became the king of T9 work. For those of you who know even what that is, okay. But then I slowly adapted, and I went to a BlackBerry. Do you remember Blackberries?
Yo, boy,
I know you're considerably younger than I am.
Yeah.
Do you remember Blackberries?
I remember the Blackberries and the Razors, and I was getting in at the end of that, but
right. So the guy invents a keypad, puts it on a friggin' on a phone, and is like, this is the only thing that you can use for work. And at the time, honestly, I was an over the road sales guy. And so it was amazing. I was like, holy cow, I can check my email right here. This is incredible, right? I don't have to plug in my computer. What in the world's going on, right? And I bet I took a BlackBerry class. Sometimes I like that. I like to just dive into things and see what I can do. I was using 10% of the functions of that BlackBerry. 10%. I just didn't know it. All I knew was I could check email with a signature line. Kind of fun. I could reply with that signature line. It was incredible. But I didn't realize all the power that I had with it, right? And so we talked to a guy yesterday. This is awesome. Large brokerage. Several $100 million, okay? And they were using a fairly basic TMS. And he was like, I know what I need. I need to switch to a more powerful TMS. Went to one of the more powerful TMSs on the market, fairly large TMS, nothing crazy. And they got it implemented about 9 months ago, okay? And I thought this was probably one of the more interesting statements. He said, we have all these tools built in here. Tracking, tracing, check calls, email, there's functionalities to answer and reply to emails. There's some crazy functions.
Yeah, to streamline all that.
Yeah, that they have all streamed in there. And guess what? They were still on the old habits of that old system. 9 months later. I think something that people have to be willing to do is change, and that's probably the hardest thing, right?
Well, it's super hard to break those not bad habits, but it's hard to break from your old ways, right?
Yeah,
it's not easy. So
yeah, exactly.
But you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? I'm sure everyone hears that daily, but it's true.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, we're excited for our guest here, Nate. If you want to introduce her,
let's do it. Samantha Jones, welcome, Samantha. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. Jack to hear from you today. How's your week been?
It's been good. I feel like I'm in this time of year where the days are long, but the weeks just are gone. And I feel like it was Monday yesterday and now it's Friday. So I can't complain.
That's fair. That's a fair statement. Happy belated Mother's Day, by the way.
Thank you.
We haven't seen you. We haven't caught up with you. So we're excited to have you on today. Tell us about your world. What are the hot topics going on in your world right now?
Hot topics going on in our world right now. Well, we have kind of this interesting time of the freight market cycle right now that a lot of my clients and people are out there asking about. There's a lot of speculation and just I think more growing concern that this is the time of year where we're supposed to kind of see this tightening in capacity and potentially uptick in spot rates between DOT Safety Week and then the 4th of July. So we have DOT Safety Week, then we have Memorial. Well, we had Mother's Day, right? DOT Safety Week, Memorial, then we have Father's Day, then we have 4th of July. And those are all just really big produce, lawn and garden, summer stuff. A lot of food moves, lots of barbecues and cookouts. And so it's a pretty busy time for the produce section of the industry and some others. And I think really right now what we're kind of trying to make some crystal ball estimates on is what happens after the 4th of July. And I think that the big concern is if we see weakening and after the 4th of July, we don't keep any type of sustained rate uptick and it kind of drops back down before that typical later summer season peak for back to school, then we're probably going to have a weak peak season. And so right now, I think like everything about peak is going to be kind of driven by what happens over the next month and a half now at this point. And so just a lot of talk I'm hearing and chatter around what's going on in the market. And then as far as what's going on in the market, I'm sure some people on this call who are listening might have some insights. Would love to hear it. But kind of from what I'm hearing is like there's definitely, you feel it in capacity, but the rates aren't doing as much as people would have hoped as far as are they coming up considerably because of DOT week so far? And I'm kind of hearing the response being no, because even though we have people who may be sitting out, we have to remember that we were already oversupplied on capacity anyway. So is it hurting us as much as it usually would? Probably not this year.
That's fair. That's we talked to a couple brokers, the same thing. They were like, well, it was just another week. Like they didn't have any issues covering loads. They had no, I mean, they had a couple of there's always that one carrier that calls and's like, I'm out this week.
Yeah. Or they're like, I want $2,000 more because it's DOT. We're like,
You're like, come on, really?
Nice
like,
try. You can have 20. No,
yeah, exactly. You can have 20. I love that. Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
So yeah, I think that's kind of something I'm interested in watching. And I did a little bit of a coverage on the write-up for what some other industry experts are saying on that in my last newsletter that released a week or two ago. And I'll do a follow-up to that, of course, for June to see kind of where we're tracking along those lines. But as far as a sales tip for today,
let's hear it.
The other thing that's been going on a lot lately in my world would be cold calls. I don't love cold calling. I don't know a lot of people who do. I think only because my biggest frustration is like the low connection rate that happens these days, right? I like talking to people on the phone. I just hate the like dial, no connections. That just drives me nuts. But I also think that if there is going to be any time to cold call, you should probably be considering it now for the next 6 weeks because there might be a little bit of a feeling of pressure going on right now in the marketplace. And so I don't think it's a bad time to consider picking up the phone a little bit more than you maybe have been. And so that's kind of what I've been coaching some of my clients through. We've been putting more emphasis on trying to increase our dials right now. And I've been kind of listening and looking at some different sales academies and things like that and tips and tricks that are out there. And I actually came across one that I really liked. And so that's what I wanted to share today. And it says that the goal of cold calling is not to sell the product, not to sell a brand, not to make a new friend, but simply to move the prospect to the next step in your process. And that hit me because what I tell people all the time is the only reason I want you picking up the phone to interrupt somebody's day, to immediately make them mad when they realize they answered a cold call, is to ask them for a better time to have a meeting with you to discuss your business and how you can serve them and learn more about their business. And so I tell people, like, I don't want you rushing, like you're trying to get off the call really fast and they can feel that pressure. But you're staying calm and collected, confident, you have a good tone, and your only goal is to say, can we have a meeting? And then that's it. Every time there's an objection, answer the objection. I think that's something we could really talk through more on a quick phone call or a virtual call next week. What time would be good for you? And we keep pushing back to that. And it's not to be salesy. Like I said, we're not trying to interrupt this person's day. And there is almost zero chance that they can process who you are, what you do, and how that fits with them on that cold call. And so I think what people do wrong is they just start pushing and they're trying to ask all these questions about their business and they're trying to sell them on the phone. There is like a very, very low percentage chance that that person wants to be on that call with you. And so you're kind of trying to fight an uphill battle the whole time to like force yourself into a situation. And I just don't think that that's going to give you the highest chance of success. So that's kind of what we're practicing right now in the cold calling space.
I love that. I would be curious, we talk a lot to brokers that have kind of been around, but for whatever reason, they have a little call reluctance. Can you give us, what advice, what tips would you give when people say, God, I just can't pick up the phone? What would you say? How do you get them to where they need to be?
Yeah. So my first bit of advice is to practice before you actually call someone. I mean, sure, you can learn by doing, but you can also learn by like grabbing a peer and practicing back and forth. You could practice with your mother, with your brother, with your child. Like here's the crazy thing is when you really think about it, there are only about 5 objections that you're going to get if you're a broker calling a shipper. I'm not kidding. The most common ones probably, this isn't a good time. I don't have time to talk right now. Send me an email. We're not onboarding any new providers. We don't work with brokers. We just did our RFP or our RFPs in January. Check back in then. That's about it. Like I'll be shocked if that doesn't cover over 90% of your objections. And so if you know what they're going to say before they say it, you should have a response planned. And so what I have my clients do is we write down our opener, which should be very short and sweet, right? Here's who I am. Here's why I'm calling you. And the why I'm calling you needs to be researched. I'm calling you because I saw you have a facility in Sacramento. You know, we're based out of there. We have 2 trucks, or we run a lot of produce out of Southern California or wherever it is up into that area. So you have a reason for why you're calling, and you're letting them know that briefly. And you're saying, I just thought that it would make sense to connect to see where our networks have overlap. Do you have time next week? So we can have that pretty much scripted, right? Like why you're calling, what that specific reason is, write it down before you call if it helps you remember why you're calling, what that reason was. And then you ask them for that meeting. You can like I said, 1 of 5 things is going to come out of their mouth. And then you need to have an idea for when they say this is what I say. And that allows you to feel like you're staying in control. You know what the answer is. You've already practiced this answer. You give your answer, you give your response, and you always end it with, do you think that's something that we could talk about on our meeting in the next couple of weeks? And you're asking a question again. What people get wrong a lot is like they deliver the answer to the objection and then they just leave it. And you just give them the opportunity to like shut it down again instead of forcing them to answer your original question. And so we want to like come back to the question because now they have to answer again, or they're forced to come up with the next objection, which again is probably the second one of those 5. They'll stack them up. So it's all about being prepared. You should feel confident in something if you're prepared. If you have to go give a presentation or you're going to give a speech, you're going to feel terrified if you're not prepared to do that. But if you've been preparing for it and you know what you're going to say, you feel a lot more confident going into that. And confidence is one of the number 1 things that you have to have those higher success rates when you're calling, because they can hear it in your voice. If you don't sound like you know what you're talking about, why should they believe you do know what you're talking about, right? So exactly. You want to come off as confident, but you need to prepare yourself so that you feel like you know exactly what you're going to say, what you're walking into. And then something else that I tell my clients is don't be a passenger. That's that whole like, you're not on a ride with them where they take you in that call. Like you're driving that call, right? You're in charge of that call. Respectfully, of course. You're not, forcing questions on them. But that's why I say pull it back to your agenda, because this was, you called them. You have a mission. And so you need to like redirect back to what your original question was.
Yeah. God, I love that. You always bring the house. I mean, every time. You may as well be done for the day. I would just
I can quit working for this Friday.
Just get some comfy clothes on. Let's drop the mic and let's just keep moving. You did a great job. I mean, I love the energy. I love your advice. Cold calling reluctance is something that we hear literally daily. And so it's so wonderful to hear just a fresh breath air. And we appreciate you being on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I just saw someone ask if there's any conferences that shipping managers and transportation professionals attend in Nebraska. I don't know about Nebraska, but in Chicago coming up in September, October is the JOC Inland Distribution Conference. And that's strictly like over the road domestic trucking will be, it's about intermodal drayage and full truckload. And there are usually 200 to 300 shippers that are attending that, as well as brokers and carriers. So it's a drive, right? From Nebraska, it's drivable, flyable or drivable, but I would highly recommend that one if you're trying to just get your first experience with networking with shippers.
Yeah, absolutely. The JOC is like, it's through the roof. It's one of my favorites.
I will be there. I will be speaking, and I am also doing some fun podcasting work. So if you're there, maybe we can all connect and say hi. So you'll have to, if anybody's going to attend, let me know.
How do people get in touch with you, Samantha? Where do people find you? How do people get in touch with you?
I am on LinkedIn, so all the time. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Samantha Jones. And then I also have a website. It's connectsjc.com. And we have a web forum on there. We usually get a couple questions every week, and you can schedule meetings with me on there. So really easy to get in touch with me from the website as well.
I love it. Yeah, I recommend everyone connecting with Samantha on LinkedIn. Just the post that you bring, I think it's so relevant, and it's what people need to be kind of reading if you need to up your game. You had a really good post this week about qualifying yourself, and I love that when I reposted it, and I'm hoping people read that. But connect with Samantha. She's awesome, and thanks again for being here.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Have a good one.
Have a good Friday.
Bye.
I love that.
She's a rock star.
Yeah, she and I love that because she gets to hear all these stories, all these companies, and hear their journeys, and she provides really good feedback.
Yeah.
I when I tell you her LinkedIn is next level, it's next level.
Oh yeah.
It's shit you need to be reading to kind of help yourself get better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously a bunch of other people on LinkedIn that do this, but Samantha's one of my favorites, to be honest. So
we get those, you get the comments of, hey, we don't have a shipper,
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in, if you don't have a shipper right now, right, besides cold calling, cold emailing, you should really be immersing yourself into this industry. And she writes this economic report at the end of every month, at the beginning of every month, whatever it is. And honestly, that'll give you a good feedback. That'll give you things to talk about in your sales calls.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to look at, when you're reading, how do I use it into my day-to-day calls, my day-to-day emails, whatever it may be, because you got to continue to provide value.
Oh, for
right?
sure, yeah.
I can tell you from, we made cold calls this week. I would say right now, the percentage of somebody getting on the phone and talking to you is anywhere from 3 to 5% is what is kind of published out there statistically. We talked to, a lot of different people this week. And the phones are a lot looser. People are a lot more willing to have conversations. People are also wanting to kind of connect personally. I know a broker out there, one of the better brokers I've met, has got an interesting bet going with this shipper on the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, right? And so, it's wild. People want to be a little more personal. Yeah, they work all day. Yeah, they know trucking. How do you relate and connect with these people? Just, hey, are you this there? So, we don't have to keep saying we've got trucks in your area. You can say something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can say something that relates to them geographically or sports related or whatever it may be.
Well, like Samantha said too, if you do your work, Nuggets and 7, baby. If you do your homework, the homework could be anything, right? Like, let's see what this guy's into or gal, right? Or where are they from? Where'd they go to college? Did they like some picture of maybe some pasta, right? Maybe there's something for you to connect and bring that up.
Right.
It's the little things really that that we let slip by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
the other thing I liked about Samantha, real quick, and then we can jump back into the habit thing here, is I loved how she talked about getting preparation will equivalent out to confidence, right? Mm-hmm. The more prepared you are, the more confident you are, and I'm a big believer in confidence is definitely not an emotion. Confidence is an action, right? It's a willingness to go out and try. And when you keep trying and you just have to have the ability to go, I'm going to go try this and just be willing to go out and do it. It's a cold call. 3 seconds of courage. Ask for the shipping manager. Ask for whatever the guy or gal's name is, right? Mm-hmm. Take a breath and let's go do it again, right. And don't take it personal for the love of God. We heard some crazy, I've heard some crazy conversations, and they don't have to all be that. So social media is your friend in sales. Facebook stalking does wonders.
Big fan of it.
I completely agree.
I believe Justin might have been one of these guys where he was looking up people that went to his college, and some of them are shipping managers, and he reached out to them. So it was a way for them to connect as well. So just little things. I like how Justin thinks.
Yeah, we'll have to have him on the show sometime. We'll see if
I hope
he's always too busy for us.
I hope he doesn't stalk me. That'd be kind of weird. But anyway, let's talk about habits.
I see he clicks on my LinkedIn profile every day.
Justin does?
Yeah.
Stalker.
No, just every day. He's like, "Can I just come on the show?" No.
This guy.
Yeah, he's I love Justin. He's a good dude. Good dude.
Let's talk about habits again. You know, one of the things on my list here were sourcing, carrier relationships.
Yeah.
You know, we talk to obviously a lot of brokers, like you mentioned, and a lot of them rely on that post and pray.
Man, it is wild. And I got to tell you something. If you are, there's nothing wrong. I'd love to be on. You just never ask. See, I guess we'll find out.
We wrote you a letter, but okay.
Yeah, it's fair. Here's. I got to tell you guys why we built eCarrierCheck. Is my habit as a broker prior to the big C. YouTube doesn't like this word. Is I would just post and get a truck and mark it up and make a margin. And literally, it was like me dancing through the friggin' woods with leprechauns and unicorns. It was wonderful. I'm like, yeah, everybody's making money. We didn't even care, right? And there was this day, I remember it vividly. The scar hurts. When the scar happens, I promise you, you're going to change a habit, right? When you hit rock bottom, you're going to change a habit. And here's what happened. It was December 22nd. I was moving retail loads, and it was like time definite, like weird, like, hey, we're out of teddy bears. Give me a truckload of teddy bears. Tomorrow's the biggest selling day of the year. Mall of America. Let's get it going, right? I'm always like, let's throw it up on the load boards. We'll get a truck. Well, guess what? The load boards went down. I lost this client, right? It was not only revenue for the company, it was revenue for my family, for my kids. At that time, I had young kids, babies, right? An expensive formula, wildly expensive, by the way. My kids had like heartburn. I'm like, this poor kid. I have heartburn issues already. He's he's like 14 days old. He's got heartburn.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I know. It's like, gosh dang it, I got the blood of a friggin' Irishman here. So, but what do you do? But I can promise you, when it hurts enough, you're going to change a habit. And I mean, we talk to so many brokers. 80% of brokers just take their loads, throw it up on the load boards, wait for a call.
Yeah. Here's the way I think of it. The more people you know, the better, right? That's why making relationships is so important. I think about it because I got a couple friends. One's a plumber, one's an electrician, and one does like, landscaping, things like that. Guess what? If I have anything goes wrong, I can call one of those guys up.
You gotta phone a friend.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I can phone someone. Now, if I'm calling carriers and building a relationship, trying to hear their business model, if anything ever comes up from either my customer or maybe a future customer, I have people I can rely on.
Right.
Call.
Right.
Try to get, a quote or try to get this picked up, right?
Yeah.
So, because it does suck when no one's calling off the load board.
Yeah.
And it does suck when you can't get back to your customer right away with a quote. You know what I mean? So
I think it's important that you spend an hour every week for the next 12 weeks building up a habit in how you source. Take your number one client, look at the locations that they're shipping to and from, and start calling carriers in that area and start to build a relationship. And all you have to say is hi. Yeah. It's that simple. You get on eCarrierCheck, with the best number one sourcing platform in the entire universe. And you can find any truck that you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And I mean any truck. Stretch flatbeds, stretch RGNs, pneumatics, flatbeds, 53 flatbeds, vans. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you're looking for. Hell, we had a guy come on here the other day and tell me that he found multi-compartment hazmat tanker guy in 34 minutes. Sure. Not going to find it anywhere else. Yeah. So change your sourcing habits, because I promise you the pain that's going to come later this year or whenever this market turns and we all need a truck. And those shipping managers are answering the phone going, well, do you really have trucks or are you just posting? Right? Change your sourcing habits. Number one, this is all we're doing. We're going to do something real simple to change those habits, right? Is you're going to spend an hour every week, at least an hour every week. If you can at least do an hour a day would be good. Pick up the phone at 4:00 because all you're doing is drinking beer and having playing darts anyway. Just hour a week, find some new carriers, find some carriers that you can work with, and start to build that habit.
I love that. Okay. Were you calling me out about the darts and beer?
No, absolutely not.
Because I don't do that.
I do it as well. I don't know what to tell you.
And that leads me to my next number 2 here, leveraging technology and making that a habit.
Yeah.
eCarrierCheck.
This is
CMS.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. when you get to a point, now we have some customers, we have enterprise customers that have come to us and said, hey, we want an API for your carriers, not only to vet, for vetting purposes, because obviously we have a risk radar that's updated daily, but we're also looking at trends. And so our risk radar actually follows trends when it comes to how they're fraudulent, things like that. We're very, very current with the shit that's happening, right? When it comes to tech, let's start to look at those things that are in your TMS that can help you speed up your time. Every broker across the nation has one thing in common, that we're all the same. It doesn't matter if you're moving 1 million loads a year or you're moving 0 loads a year. Guess what we have all in common? We have the same amount of time. And if you can speed up your time through technology, do it, right? Your TMS, the guy that we talked to, and he's spending a fortune on that TMS. And his guys are still doing manual check calls, and his guys are doing manual this and manual that. He didn't get that fancy car to just drive it. He needs that thing to work too. So when it comes to this things, you've got to really, if you're a sales manager, or if you're a guy that's, maybe you just oversee yourself, right? Set some small goals so that you're getting on, right? Set some small goals and take the time to go, hey, guess what? This week I tracked 100% of my loads with my technology. Or this week I used my email corrugator thing where it compiled all this stuff and started sending emails. Take the first step and see how it goes to change your life.
I think these are great steps in helping you compete with those larger companies too.
Yeah.
I mean,
we all have the same amount of time.
Exactly.
CH Robinson and us. And CH just came out last week. Did you see this? CH came out last week and said, hey, we spent a weird amount of money. I'd like to get this guy on the show. I don't think the CEO of CH Robinson's watching us.
If you are,
somebody knows him, have him give us a call. We'd love to talk. But he just spent a weird amount of money getting his company up and running so that he can more accurately, more efficiently respond back to quotes.
Trying to get better.
Then there's the biggest fish out there. That's what they're focusing on. So you should probably think about doing the same thing. If you think about what AI is going to do to this industry, it's probably going to make things a little more efficient, right? It's probably going to shrink this industry a little bit. There's brokers that'll continue to do the way they used to. And then guess what? There's going to be brokers that follow that TMS. Take that first step, even if you're scared.
I like that.
What's the last one?
Number 3, the last one.
It's only Justin on this.
It's only Justin, yeah. Justin.
Hey, Arturus, real quick. JOC is really good. You know what I recommend doing? Is looking up conferences. I don't know if you live in Nebraska or why you asked about Nebraska, other than it's the greatest state in America. Yeah. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
We love it. Watch us on Saturdays. We're getting ready to dominate, especially week 2, under the lights, Colorado. Be there, be square. I cannot wait for the Huskers to friggin' just take Deion Sanders down. Can't wait. I know we're not talking about that. I get excited about Huskers stuff.
I know you do.
Arturus, you know what I recommend? Go to a specific show, go to a manufacturing show. Go to an agriculture show. Go to those shows that they sell equipment, right? Or they sell things. All that stuff has to be moved. Now, the guys that are at these shows, right? They're usually sales guys, are pretty suave. You just walk up to them and say, hey, I move a lot of product like this. How do I get in touch with the right person? Who is it? It's like a warm walk-in lead, sort of, because a lot of those shipping guys or sales guys, they'll tell you. I tell every shipper that I cold call that I put out on the first day.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I wish DIY had the link right now. I'd have him join our show. DIY, I keep watching the same short over and over in my head.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not actually physically watching it, but he said something the other day that just continues to ring in my head. And I love that. It is a downturn right now in this industry. It's tight. But DIY said something about the big C that I thought was probably the most interesting thing that I've heard someone say is, he said it created an opportunity to talk to people that you normally wouldn't talk to. Right? We're in that same opportunity with carriers. Talk to those people that they'll stick around with a relationship if you meet them now. They're going to take the bucks later, right? Oh, I know we talked, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're in an opportunity. We got to take it. DIY, I got to give it up for that. It was one of the, gosh dang, it's one of the better shorts on our platform. Get out there and see that.
Yeah.
But
go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. He puts out content daily and just full of knowledge.
Incredible knowledge. I wish we had. The guy just kills it.
Yeah. You were talking about conferences. Anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, not really. Just go to an industry specific conference that you would think have freight.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't go to like a dentist one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some chair manufacturers, right, or something like that, right? But I probably wouldn't go to like an insurance one. There's a better example, right? Go to something that's there, and there's quite a few ag shows in Nebraska. So I wonder if he lives here. You live in Nebraska?
Yeah, dude. If you do, let's get a coffee.
Yeah. Exactly.
The last one I do want to talk about is just accountability with like cold calls. We had Chris White on. I don't know if he's still on, but we had him on the other day, and something I asked him was, how many phone calls should someone make? And I think his response was like, just more, right?
Yeah.
There really isn't a number to it, but you also need to pick up the phone and do it and have those quality calls.
Yeah.
Give me some feedback on how people can hold themselves accountable. What's it going to take to help build that habit of coming into work every day and just want to pick that phone up and start making calls?
Yeah.
That's how you grow your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a couple things that I think are really important. Okay. We're very visual people, right? If you walk into your office, maybe it's your living room, maybe it's actually an office. We're blessed to have an office, a wonderful office, where our programmers sit there, incredible people, right? But if you're blessed to have a wall, let's just put it that way, okay? Or a cubicle even. I think there's two things that are really important here, okay? Number one, go out and get something a picture that motivates you, whether it's your family, maybe it's a picture of a house you want, maybe it's just a visual that says keep going, and it's a picture of a lion. Whatever it is, I don't care. It is really important in your mind to see things around you and visualize success, okay? And visualize the reason why you're doing this, okay? I even have on our phone, pick me up, I'll make you money. There's a sign on the phone that says, pick me up, I'll make you money, right? And so number one is if we're trying to break a habit, right? We talk about call reluctance or just doing those things. We gotta create an environment that allows you to have success. So go get some pictures. Go get some motivating pictures. Go get pictures of your family. Go get a picture of your boat that you want. Whatever it is, but have something around you that makes the most sense to start to create this, man, I'm in a good place. I'm in this happy place. And number two, start to time block. We talk about accountability. Self-accountability is the hardest thing. Discipline, self-discipline is so friggin' hard because people just want to stay comfortable. It's easier to send the email, right? It's easier to keep scrolling on your phone. Time block and do it for 15-minute intervals. What can you accomplish in 15 minutes? And go in with the mindset that I'm going to win every call. Samantha hit it on the head. Cold calls aren't meant to close. Cold calls are meant to get the relationship started in the position of whoever's on the other line. If that person on the other line doesn't want to talk today, maybe next week's better. Maybe they do want to talk today. I've had some weird cold calls where 30 minutes later, I know everything about their supply chain, right? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? Some people tell me to pound sand, whatever it may be. Yeah. But get the visuals, start doing 15-minute time blocks. And at the end of that 15 minutes, give yourself a reward. Scroll for 5 minutes, get up and walk, whatever it is, but give yourself a reward. If you look at how to create a habit, right? If you look at how to create a habit, you've got to set a goal and you got to give yourself a reward and you got to do it in small increments because nobody wants to get uncomfortable. The other day I had this guy, I was at the gym, and I am the greatest 20-minute mile run guy I know. Nobody does a better 20-minute mile run than I do. It's terrible. And the guy said, just be uncomfortable for 5 minutes, jog at a 4, talking about the speed on the treadmill, and get your mile down to 15 minutes. Just 15. Just go to a 4. You're going to act like you're sort of jogging, but it's close to a walk.
Yeah.
And I did that the other day, and I got 14:52, right? Man, I was jacked. I mean, I was super jacked. I rewarded myself with going to get a sandwich. So that's another issue, right? Yeah. But I had a reward in mind. If I can run under 15 minutes, I'm going to go get a friggin' sandwich. So visuals, time blocking, reward, and just hit it. You got to hit it. If you're scared, if you don't want to pick up this phone, you got to do it, man. There's so many different little tactics that you can kind of create. Yeah. You can count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, and let's pick up the phone. Yeah. Right? You got to do it. Yeah. Self-accountability, self-discipline is so hard. We got to do it.
Well, you're going to be getting some flowers and chocolates. So
I love
then he's going to have to go run that 15-minute mile again. So we'll see how that goes. Honestly, from my point of view, and this could be, if you're going through life, personally or maybe professionally, and you're just trying to kick those bad habits, or maybe you're trying to find better habits. Yeah. You just got to do it. You got to find that motivation to get you going, and have that motivation every single day. And then next thing you know, it's just a part of your life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's not easy.
No.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No. You said this yesterday. You should talk about that. The guy that was in his TMS 9 months, and he was just kind of, he was in the weeds working with his guys and noticed nobody's using the TMS. Yeah. And you said something just absolutely remarkable. And I got to give you credit for this, is you said, be patient. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think something that family teaches you is that you can love someone, but you don't have to like them. Family's a weird dynamic, right? You can love somebody, but you don't have to like them. But it also teaches you that you just need to be patient, right? And all of this, if you can give your family members enough grace, enough self-love to be who they are, you give yourself that same thing, right? So, just some thoughts.
Be patient for sure. I like that. We're just so rushed to get things done right away. So I love that. Like Samantha was like, no, don't try to close on that first call. It's probably not going to happen. Yeah. So that's part of that patience right there, Yeah. So have that patience. Be willing to, follow back up. Yeah. Continue to have that patience.
Yeah. There's a statistic. I was looking this up, by the way, the other day. 44% of salespeople give up after the first call.
That's
a wild number. Yeah. Don't be that 44%. Yeah. Be the other side.
Jared, well, I appreciated talking through these habits. Like I said, habits have been on our mind all week since Monday, literally. All week. Jared and I are texting, let's create some habits, whether it's personally or professionally. And then we started thinking about other people's habits, and we're starting to see it more. People just need to have those habits and just get going. Yeah. So I appreciate you give us some feedback on some habits today. I don't know if you have any closing remarks here, but it's Friday. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Yeah. I'm jacked for this weekend. It's going to be nice in Nebraska for once, and might have to get out and golf. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful, yeah. I love it. Nate, have a great weekend. Yeah. Everyone, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for the comments. Go spread some love and be kind to people. Yeah, for sure.